Everybody good? Thought for, the first practice, we came out excited. There was a lot of retention from the veterans, certainly. The newcomers that we're counting on, you could tell they were newcomers. There was a lot of mental issues and busted assignments, not really knowing how hard we practice, not understanding that. So we've got some work to do with the newcomers in terms of A, learning the playbook, but B, indoctrinating them into the way that we do things. And it started in the summer, and that's certainly no knock. I think we've got one of, if not the best strength coaches in America, but it's different. You can train all you want and try to simulate what a game or a practice would be like when you're training in the summer, but nothing can ever truly replicate the intensity and duration of a full speed practice. And so we got sloppy at the end, and to be honest with you, I wasn't. I was happy with how we started. I was happy with the way that we conducted ourselves in meetings like a pro. Everybody had notebooks out taking notes. I mean, it was first-class operation. We went out, we started practice really sharp, crisp, and then the sun came out and started getting a little more humid, and we got tired. And in my opinion, we let what we call the little demon in your head, human nature, if you will, beat us, or beat a lot of us today towards the end of practice, and we let slip our intensity and our effort. And I'm hoping that's a conditioning thing and not an effort thing. Because like I said, am I concerned about what we do in the summertime? No, I'm not. But this is fairly par for the course for a first practice. These guys, the only way to get in shape to play football is by playing football. We're not going to run them. These guys are out here, wide receivers, DBs, they're out there running, sprinting, 7,000, 8,000 yards, over the span of 2.5 hours. That you're not going to do that every day in training in the summer. You've got other things to worry about. So, we'll get in shape, and hopefully, even when we are tired, we'll grow and progress into learning, how to do a better job when fatigue does set in, of overcoming that and being a little bit more strong-minded against that. So, questions?
Tom, what time did you arrive for work this morning?
I'm not a morning guy. So this morning practice stuff is a little new for me, but I think I got here like 6:15. Nothing crazy.
You've had a lot of first falls at different schools. Is it different? Is it more excitement, or is it just
I didn't get a lot of. No, probably not. I didn't sleep for any openings of training camp. So no, it wasn't much different. In terms of even my complaints, or if you go back and look at the notes I take on my little folder every practice, I keep them then in a binder so I can reference them each training camp, and I put the temperature down, the time down. I write notes. Hey, we were dragging ass the last 30 minutes of practice. We got to do a better job motivating. Little things like that. And then before every training camp, I go back and reference the last couple. Here it's different because you kind of have referenced it oftentimes by weather as well. And South Florida is different than Austin, which is different than Houston, which is certainly different than Columbus. So there are some differences, but for the most part, for me, it was like riding a bicycle. I mean, it was not anything spring. I was probably more, I don't know if excited, just kind of rejuvenated my first spring practice here. Where this, we've been at it for 8 months now, 9 months, something like that. So it feels like it normally feels.
Speaking of spring, what key improvements have you seen the team make since the last day of spring practice to this first day of fall camp?
We've invested a lot in our nutrition program. We have doubled our budget for nutrition. It is really, really important to me that these guys take care of their bodies, and we have hired a young rock star named Addie as a nutritionist that is a freaking stud, and she does a great job too. I think that's a huge difference that we've seen. So many guys put on weight but lose body fat. The weight's all lean muscle mass. I mean, it is astounding, the transformations in some of these guys' bodies. And then just the speed that some of the veterans can play with early, you know, when you're installing a new offense and a new defense for the very first time in spring. You know, there's some tiptoeing around, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right place? And all that stuff. We're here, it's like day one is the same. I mean, we didn't change offenses and defenses over the summer, so it's a lot of repetition. So now they can play faster, earlier is the biggest thing I see.
Coach, you mentioned before not being able to like replicate the intensity of a padded practice when they're still in like shorts and jerseys, but is there anything that you can look for like in these
effort? I told the guys that before practice. You get me on a soapbox with the starting practice and spiders, you know, shoulder pads and hip pads. Those are safety equipment, and I always go back to the line I heard Matt Brown say, you know, swimming and diving is an NCAA sport, and they don't have to practice their first 2 days without the water in the pool, you know. So, like, I don't know why we do that, because it isn't football, but can you glean some things? Yeah, effort you can glean, assignment, stance, and then, you know, certainly nothing up front. You know, that's not fair to either side of the ball, to try to evaluate too much off of, you know, a line play in shorts and underwear, as I call it, you know. But you can see wide receivers, you know, get out in the open and run routes, and you can see wide, you know, or DBs, excuse me, you know, cover them. I think that's something you can evaluate without pads. You can evaluate the rhythm and the eyes of a quarterback, certainly. The techniques in the defensive backfield, you know, are they in the right spot? Are they pedaling at the right tempo? Or you know, so there are things like that you can evaluate, but certainly the line play is not one of them in underwear. You know, it's just not football. But there are a few things, yeah, that you can evaluate.
Coach, I'm curious about leadership. You know, this was a sub-500 team. You came in and immediately started changing the culture. How far are you with that progression, and where do you want to go? Where can you assess it?
Yeah, I think, again, I owe a lot to Joey Garasio, our strength coach. We had a select group of guys, about 20-something guys, that, for lack of a better term, I don't know that we've even named it leadership committee or whatever. And rather than, because I've been places where it's like, okay, you guys are the leadership committee, and it's report back to us if the toilet paper's out in the locker room, or if the equipment room is being stingy with socks or whatever, you know. A lot of places that's what the leadership committee is, but myself and our strength coach, we sat down and developed a very planned out curriculum for like a once a week class, if you will, on leadership. And I'm really happy with, you know, we've got a lot. The beauty of this team, in my opinion, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse, because we've had a spring and one fall practice in underwear, but the veterans, for the most part now, after the transfer portal windows kind of shook out, and we weeded out some guys that were, for lack of a better term, defiant. You know, so the veterans that we have right now, which are quite a few, one, they contribute. You know, we're a junior and senior kind of heavy team, and two, they're for the most part, they're do right guys. You know, they do right. They were primed and ready for this kind of leadership academy / curriculum. They're do right guys that just needed to be taught how to lead. You know, and I've been pleased with it thus far. Sure.
When it comes to the portal, you got plenty of guys from the portal, one of them being Casey Thompson. What are your thoughts on how he did in his first day of fall camp, and how do you think he looks among the plethora of quarterbacks you have in that group?
Yeah, I thought they all had their moments, good and bad today. Again, you know, it's hard to pass block, you know, so some without pads on, so sometimes there's a little bit more pressure than there normally is. But no, I thought Casey did good for practice one. You know, he wasn't perfect by any stretch. You know, he's got things to improve on, but we're headed in the right direction in that room, and it's going to be fun to watch to see how it plays out.
I've seen a lot of practices where coaches will stick with what they know. Offensive-minded coaches stay with their quarterbacks. Right down the line. You were on the field. In fact, you probably spent more time in the defense. From we were watching, you definitely spent more time on the defensive side than the offensive side. What is your philosophy on that?
Well, it's twofold. One, we're expecting some help from probably more newcomers on defense than we are on offense. So there was a bit of a strategy there. But yeah, I think sometimes, you know, I've been places where, like for instance, a head coach is an offensive guy, and he may stand up in front of the entire team and start talking to them about whatever it is, and he'll say, okay, we're going to go do this next. Defense, you're going to go do this. And it's like, wait a minute, you're the head coach. They're all we, aren't they? You know, they're all we. And so I never want, I mean, the first bullet point on our four-point plan to win is play great defense. And since the BCS and CFP era, and I've got to probably restudy it, the stat is a little bit dated, so it might have changed, but as of a few years ago, there had been one national champion that finished outside the top 25 in total defense since the BCS inception. And that defense finished 32nd, and they had a quarterback by the name of Cameron Newton. So you better play great defense, and I want to make sure that if it's the number one thing on our plan to win is to play great defense, I want to make sure that they never feel like the redheaded stepchild just because my background is offense, because they're not. They're the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, real child, if you will, whatever the opposite of redheaded stepchild is.
With the quarterbacks, coming back to that, do you have an idea when you hope to make a decision by, and also what are you particularly looking for that will separate that person from the rest of the pack?
Yeah, I think it's fair to give the guy, when we've had real quarterback competitions, I think, you know, pretty much about 10 days out, I think is the right number from game one. You know, now if it unfolds sooner than that, great, but I think the guy that you're going to go into game one with should get the majority of reps, you know, about at least a week, if not a couple days beyond that. So I would think somewhere around 10 days out from game one would be logical. And then you asked what I'm looking for. Protect the ball and score. I don't care how you do it. I don't care how pretty it is. I don't care what it looks like. I mean, your job as a quarterback is to, what is the old saying, matriculate the ball down the field, right? And put the ball in the end zone. And make sure that every drive ends in a kick, either a PAT or a punt. And if you do that, we're going to be, we've got enough talent around you to be successful. Just distribute the football, protect it with your life, and then lead us down the field and score. And so it's not gonna, or do we keep stats and grades and all that? Yes, we do. But I was talking to Coach Fry just the other day. I remember, and forgive me, my memory might be a little bit off on the numbers, but in 2004, and I know this because my mentor is Greg Davis, he was the offense coordinator at the time. The University of Texas started at quarterback a kid by the name of Chance Mock. And after about the 4th week or so, this is where my memory gets a little fuzzy, he was leading the country in a bunch of different statistical categories. But the coaches knew, they kept seeing this kid at practice and spring ball that they had behind Chance Mock, and they just knew and they knew and they knew. And they made a change, even though this kid was, leading the country in one, if not multiple, statistical categories. And that kid's name was Vince Young. So pretty good decision by the coaches. So stats and numbers and grades and all that are important, but at the end of the day, myself and Coach Fry have been doing this a long time. It's going to be the guy that we feel has shown us that they are the best guy for the job, given those parameters of protecting the football, distributing the football, and punching it in the end zone when it's time.
How is the team looking health-wise? Are there any players like nursing injuries or
banged up the tight end? Jackson Sumlin had a little foot re-aggravation from a prior injury, so he did not practice today. Elijah Brown rolled his ankle pretty good in summer training, so he'll be out. Those are 2 guys we were counting on. Zeke Moore has shown up. He did kind of fill in nicely for a guy that probably thought, with 2 transfers plus some returners coming in, 3 transfers if you count Jackson. For a guy like Zeke, who probably thought he was coming in and going to sit and learn, we may need it, and he had a good day. I don't even remember the question.
How is quick follow up? How is Zaire Horton doing? I noticed he had a bit.
Zaire's hurt too. Freak deal. We like every team in America in off-season training. We run with those sleds behind us, and he was sprinting with the weighted sled behind him, and he stopped where he was supposed to stop, and for some reason the sled kept going and slammed him in the ankle, and so he's in a boot for a couple weeks. So. Those 3 guys, we were hoping to see sooner rather than later, but it's probably going to be later rather than sooner now. Good? All right. You guys want to talk to these guys anyway.
Okay, so the first day of practice, the pace was very, very fast. It was very hot. Everything was going fast. It was very strict. Everything was organized versus the summer. Like, summer was organized too, but we was just running. It wasn't too much like physical combat, because physical combat is way tired, like way more tired. And that's really about the difference, the heat and like the physicality part.
One thing that Coach brought up was the intensity of practice, how important it is when you're not in pads yet. How would you kind of evaluate the atmosphere and intensity of the first practice?
It was live. It was jumping like a lot. Everybody's ready to practice. Everybody ready to hit. Like, we've been going through the summer for like 8 weeks and haven't hit nobody, so everybody ready to hit now.
Compared to last season, you had up and down because of injury within the season. How do you feel about your fitness and conditioning at this point of the fall camp?
At this point, we still got to get conditioned because, like I said, like you can run all day, but until you run and get hit, you don't know how it feels to be in football shape. So right now, we just got to go through the growing pains. Today, it was tough for me. I threw it like 3 times, so we all just got to get right, get in shape.
After dealing with kind of injury last year, does that change your approach to this season, whether that be like mentally or something, like in your routine change at all?
No, not really, because last year, the first game, my foot was already broke, so nothing changed.
What are your thoughts on how the defense did for this first day of fall camp?
The first day of fall camp, we did all right. We got to get a lot better. We got a lot of young guys, new people on the team. we all gotta lock in because a lot of people ain't do the spring with Coach Rock, so a lot of them gotta get used to how Coach Rock coach and teach and the standard of defense. So probably by the end of the week, after we do all these up downs, everybody will be right.
Where do you feel like you've improved the most just in this offseason?
I feel like I put the most in the offseason is just being more calm and my pass rush, just chilling, like taking everything one day at a time, not looking at the future, just going day by day.
Are there any like big notices any big differences you've noticed in the defense this year compared to the past?
Yeah, one of the big differences I know the defense versus the past year, everybody want to work. Like even somebody who might never think they gonna get in the game, they working like they starting on Saturday. Like everybody from the walk-ons to the red shirt, anybody freshman, everybody working hard like they'll start.
What key improvements has your group within the defensive line made?
The key improvement we made as a group at defensive line, really just our work ethic, like players like understanding football more. Like a lot of guys was young last year, like Jacob Merrifield, he got a lot better. He did a major jump as a player. The Carries Hawthorne, he did a major jump. Like you go see this year, everybody just like better. They better football players. Everybody love each other. Like we go play as a group.
Thank you, sir. This is third or fourth preseason camp for you.
This is my third.
Third. So maybe just the pace and getting back into the groove of preseason football.
The pace was real fast today. The intensity was real high. Coach Herman wanted everybody to transition from period to period real fast. So the pace of practice today was really high.
Mm-hmm. You're coming off a very big season last year, catching many touchdowns. How are you approaching fall camp, especially under head coach Tom Herman?
Just by being more of a vocal leader, helping the younger guys in my position handle their assignments and things like that. And then I just want to improve my game as well as being a vocal leader.
With a lot of new coaches and a really different looking roster from your last couple camps, does it feel in any way different from like your previous starts to the season?
Yes, it definitely feels different from the summer till now. It just the whole team is bought in now. I think that's the main thing. All of the players now are just bought into what Coach Tom Herman wants, and everything's going good right now.
Is there much of a difference you say between Coach Herman's, say like the locker room under Coach Herman than, say like the previous regime?
Yes, definitely. Coach Herman takes everything serious. Like the locker room, he said that's our house. So if we treat it bad, he'll kick us out of the locker room and put us in the visitor locker room or in the hallway. So it's like Coach Herman, every little thing matters to him. I think that's the biggest difference. He take every little thing really serious.
Just the quarterbacks that were brought in, what do you just kind of notice about their skill sets and what kind of stands out? I know it's still kind of early in camp, but
yeah, we have two new fresh new quarterbacks coming from Nebraska, Casey Thompson and Daniel Richardson from Central Michigan. Both guys, great leaders, great arms, great athletes, just great overall quarterbacks. So I'm excited for this year with those guys.
What areas are you and the other receivers focusing on improving heading into this season?
Just getting the line faster and making sure that we don't leave no balls on the ground, or no opportunities on the field.
Okay.
Actually, I have one more. I'm sorry. How odd is it, playing college football with two of your brothers? Like, it's not a situation many football players find themselves in. Is that weird at all, or cool to you?
That's a blessing. I mean, that's something that we've been dreaming about since we was little kids. That's my dad's dream too, to play with his brothers and stuff like that. So we're living not only our dreams but his dreams as well. So I mean, it's a blessing. It's very fun too.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
What else has changed for you this past over the summer and coming into the season?
Understanding the offense better, like I said, the blocking scheme, knowing which way, certain holes to hit, basically, at the right position.
You are fortunate that you have an offensive line that's deep. I mean, they have a lot of guys that can play in that. Has that, have you seen that already play out today?
Oh yeah, they've been rotating a lot. I like the way we improved from the spring to now. Them boys really been working, learning hard with Coach Jordan in the weight room. So.
You know, you're also coming like Wester. You're also coming off a very big season where you had over 1,000 rushing yards and plenty of touchdowns. How are you approaching fall camp, especially with this season coming up in the American?
Oh man, all that's good and all, but this season we got one goal to win the championship, so that's really what we're focused on right now.
Mm-hmm.
With the new quarterback obviously taking over the offense, how would you evaluate the way the offense has sort of built a chemistry up so far at this point?
Can you elaborate on that?
Like, has the offense started to build like a new chemistry with like a new, I guess whoever will end up at quarterback? Have you seen like a chemistry start to build yet at all?
Oh yeah, we've been building chemistry all summer, so we've been doing that really all summer. Just get with QBs, one-on-one, each quarterback, throwing and stuff like that. So it's been pretty good building chemistry with the quarterback.
Can you talk about your relationship with Coach Burke and just, you know, what he expects out of you, and, you know, because that's a new direction for you, even with so much experience and even coming back as a senior.
Coach Burke, my guy, he's been here since 2019, since I came in.
I know you left and you came back.
Yeah.
Just what he's asking you to do, because you're a different player. You weren't the same guy at 19 that you are now. Like, you're one of the top rushers in the country. So what is your relationship with him now? What is he asking you to do? How is he asking you to do? How are you working within the offense? And just kind of give me, going into the new season, you know, what that relationship is like and what the expectation.
As far as the running back room overall, he's asking us to be dependable. So as the running backs, we're gonna set the standard for the offense basically. So he wants to be more physical, downhill, more versatile out the backfield, stuff like that. To be the guys that they can depend on.
What are key areas of improvement you and the guys in the running back group are working on?
Vision, patience, understanding the blocking scheme, making sure that we know our plays, like we ain't got to ask the quarterback, so we can be sharp with our plays, basically.
Mm-hmm.
To follow up on his chemistry question, you guys did a lot this offseason too about getting to know each other. Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe some of the games that you guys did or some of the events you guys did this summer?
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff. So like on Saturdays we came in, like we did like activities and stuff, like they had like basketball, there was like water gun fights and stuff like that. We had little grill offs and whatever, stuff like that. But we brought the recruits in, they had fun as well, so that's basically a good experience right there.
Coach mentioned leadership, there's like a 20-man leadership council, etc. How does that look from the player perspective, and what have you seen out of the culture shift since Coach has been here in the new locker room and all the players coming from where they've come from?
I can say it's just been more organized and added that structure that we needed to grow as a team. You know, like we talk about unit pride a lot, and that really got us together. So,
other players have talked about, you know, Coach being detail oriented and focusing on small things like locker room cleanliness and different things like that. From your perspective, what are you taking away from his leadership as far as trying to make you guys better? You know, you lost a lot of close games last year and trying to improve going forward for this season.
It all comes down to the little things, man. Just doing the right stuff, just being where your feet are, basically. So, it's just the little things. Just focus on the fundamentals, basically. That's all I can really say.
Great. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it.